So I just signed up for a YouTube Academy this morning and I am really excited about it. I just can't believe that I'm actually going to get to take this class. I'm really excited about meeting new people, kind of getting back up to speed. I mean, if you told me 20 years ago that there was something called YouTube and I could have created my own content in my channels, I would have been in dreamland. So I'm really excited for this journey, so let's see where we go.
Hi Quilty friends, welcome back. So in April, I celebrated a milestone for my YouTube channel. It was 2 years since I posted my first video on YouTube. It is hard to believe that I have been doing this now for 2 years. I'm going to share some behind the scenes looks, and then I'm going to answer some questions that I've gotten from all of you over time. But even before I get into all that, I just want to say that I am so extremely grateful to all of you that have subscribed, have liked, have watched my videos, have commented, and have encouraged me and have laughed along with me on some of my funny videos as well. It is truly a dream come true. And you're probably wondering, well, why? Well, a long time ago, I went to school for television production, and it was a dream to create these fun and interesting videos and get into a really creative side of television. Did work in television news for 6 years, and I was a producer, associate producer, and then I did some anchoring work as well. It wasn't really my passion, but I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot about myself, and then I transitioned into another career in my late 20s. A few years ago, I started watching Ali Abdaal, and he started creating these cohorts called Part-Time YouTuber Academy, where people could sign up and he would kind of teach them how he started YouTube and things. In February of 2023, I signed up for his class. So the class was really valuable, and it got me motivated to post my first video, which was a tour of my sewing room. So then it was my third video, which was another assignment that we had to do, that Wish Upon a Quilt. And when I posted that video, it was just so well received, and it really helped my channel really grow very quickly. And it really energized me to keep going. It just really, I just remember when I was editing it, I was so excited. I hadn't felt like that in years. And yeah, I almost wanted to cry. I think my biggest fear and frustration was I was really worried I was going to run over that fabric. And I actually didn't. I literally did that in one cut. So I was really thankful for that, because I was filming it by myself that day. So I had no one to kind of give me any gauge of, like, you know, when I was going to hit it with the car. I was just in the car guessing when I was backing that car up. So I was really grateful that I didn't run over my fabric. I did. It would have made me a little sad, even though I did put it in a baggie. I think my hardware store video with my dog, you know, we were in the store and I was filming the video, you know, sections of the video at the time. And I thought, you know, this just makes the video. He's so cute. His little ears, you know, are kind of going with the music. And I think all of you just really identified with that as well. My struggle less video. That one was a lot of fun to do. I had that idea for a long time. I have to say, I spent a lot of time rewriting that script. Literally the day I filmed it, I rewrote the script again that morning. And when I say rewrote the script, I just scribbled out my bullet points. Because I had I just couldn't get it down. And then when I got those bullet points and I was in the zone, I just came in, turned the camera on, and I was done within a few minutes. And then I had pretty much gotten inspired by something else for that video, so I kind of knew the direction of where I was going with it. And then I knew what kind of music I wanted, and then when I found the music and the shot that I just happened to do just worked, it was just magical. And I was so excited when I was sitting there and editing it, because that one just kind of just clicked and kind of fell together. And I know they're in there. The other favorite video of mine that was my UFO video. I had the idea where I wanted like things to float, like aliens to kind of float like UFOs, but I hadn't technically figured out how to do that edit wise. And I did some research and I eventually figured out how to do it. And then I was just stoked. I had so much fun flying these little guys in and out and hovering and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So I went back through all of your comments, and I kind of pulled out some questions that some of you had over the last few years. So, and then there were some other ones that I just added in, thinking maybe you might be interested in knowing the answers to these questions. So here we go. So on my video about hexagons without paper forms, I recently got a question on how to sew the hexagons together after you have made them. So I just have some matching thread here, and I put a small knot on the end. I have two hexagons here, and they're right sides together. So the part that's like folded is on the back. So I'm going to put the right sides together, and I'm going to line up the edges. And I'll start just at the corner, and I don't want to go too deep, and I don't want to go too shallow. So I'm just catching the edge of each of the hexagons. If you keep it really tight, you won't be able to see the stitches. If you get too deep, meaning when you whip, you kind of go further down into the hexagon, then you're going to see the stitch on the front. So that's why I'm just kind of doing it very shallow and just catching the edges and whipping it around. The whip stitch is what I found is the best course to stitching them together. So another question I got was, what type of sewing machine do I have? I actually have 3 sewing machines now. I have a Janome Memory Craft 3600P, and I also have a 1957 Centennial Singer Featherweight, and her name is Sharon. And I have a Bernina 990. So a question from my video, Wish Upon a Quilt, a viewer asked about when I made the tip about putting a pin in my fabric. They wanted me to explain a little bit more about that. So I had taken a quilt class, and the teacher had shared with us, after we square up our fabric and then we make our cuts, to put a pin along the edge so that you don't have to square the fabric up again. Now, I typically do this for my larger bolts of fabrics that I'm using more for backgrounds and things like that, because I try and avoid folds in my fabrics now, because when I do make a cut, you can get like a slight curvature in your cut. So this comes from my big stitch quilting video that I did, was a question around the thread. And as I mentioned in that video, you can either use an 8-weight pearl cotton thread, or a 12-weight or a 30-weight thread, or you can also use embroidery floss. Either 2 or 4 strands will work. So where do I buy my fabric? Well, my fabrics kind of come from different places. Primarily my local quilt shop, which is the Old Country Store, which is located in Intercourse, Pennsylvania. We also have several other quilt shops locally here in the Lancaster County area that I go and I purchase fabrics from. I also purchase from several sellers on Etsy. That's a favorite place. The Fat Quarter Shop, Missouri Star, Shabby Fabrics. I also really like the Featherweight Shop for purchasing fabrics and notions as well. And then various Quilt Guild events, I will pick up fabric. And then I think the other one where I pick it up the most is probably local quilt shows, is where I get a lot of fabric as well. So how big is my sewing room? My sewing room is 10 by 13 and 9 inches overall. Now I opened up the closet space, as you can see in the video. The closet space is 5.5 feet wide and it's 2 feet deep, so that added some extra space to my room. My table, I get a lot of questions about my table that I have here in the middle of my room. It is a Husky table that I purchased from Home Depot here in the United States. It is 52 inches long, 24 inches deep. They do come in a larger size, I believe it's 60 inches. They come in white and black. They have 2 long drawers and they have wheels. And I can put a link to it down below and you can check that out. If you're outside of the United States, you might be able to look for a source in your local area that might have something similar. So I got a question about what type of sewing chair I have. I have an Arrow sewing chair. I absolutely love it. I am quite petite and it works really well for me. And what's even extra nice about the chair is there's storage in it, so you can put your manuals or whatever bits, bobs that we've got. I think that's really great. Another question I got was, how did I get into quilting? I was about 13 or 14 and there was a club or a class offered at the school. We learned how to do quilting. Now this was back in the days of cardboard templates. So this is the pillow that I made and my parents still have it and use it in their bedroom. And that's how I got started. I didn't really start getting back into it until my early 30s. And then I kind of went on a little bit of a hiatus while I was doing a lot of traveling for work. And then when I stopped traveling, probably in the last 10 years or so, I've been able to really focus on my quilting hobby. Thank you to all of you for the last 2 years. And here's to the next 2 years and beyond. And I truly wish you all well. And most of all, be quilty.